Hello guys, my name is Ivka and today I'm going to show you how to convert any mesh from different games or a mesh you made yourself to Sims 4. This is going to be a tutorial on how this works and what you need to do and what are the common mistakes that I made when I started with this. And I'm doing this because lots of people asked me to either do the tutorial or explain, and tutorial will be better. So, what you will need? You will need Sims 4 Studio, which is a program that we will use to make CC, where we will import meshes, work with textures, edit categories, and other stuff. And you need 2.70 version of Blender. And if you don't have it, if you try to export a mesh, here, I will explain later, it will prompt you to download this version of Blender, so you can just click OK when the window comes up and you can install it. I work with the newer version of Blender because I don't use Blender just for Sims stuff, but also for modeling and posing and doing animations and stuff. But if you want to work with newer versions of Blender as well as have the 2.70 version, which is required for Sims 4 Studio, I recommend you download an zip file, which means that you have Blender here without installing it. You just have it in file. Because if you would install it, the 2.70 version would override this one or vice versa. So that's it. Then you need some photo editing software. I have Photoshop, but you can also use GIMP or anything really. I'm just used to Photoshop, so I use it. So these three things. Then of course you will need a model. I recommend, if you want a model from any game, for example The Last of Us, you just write Last of Us XPS model, because working with XPS models is very easy, and you will need another plugin for Blender, which you can get on Blender XPS plugin. You just go to the first site on DeviantArt and you download it here. You can just go to the media file folder and download the latest version, which right now is 1.84.4. And then I will show you in Blender. So for the mesh, I think I'm going to use I will convert Ellie's outfit, which I can find here, and I already have Ellie downloaded, so I can just import her to Blender. So let's get to the tutorial. I think I mentioned everything. So open Sims 4 Studio and write a creator name here, otherwise you won't be able to do anything. So if you're converting a top or pants, just go to CAS, create 3D mesh, and what I start with, I specify the gender, and I'm just wanted to do, oh, it's in English but shows in Czech. Never mind. I just use just go female, adult, and a top. Excuse me, I got a message. Okay, so now I will just write nude and export this nude model, and I suggest you make a folder for all the packages and textures and meshes, which I have Sims projects. Can delete this, and I will name this, since this is going to be the package that you will go to mods folder, I suggest you name it. You can rename it later, but I name it right now, so I will just write Last of Us LE top by CAS Sims. Save. And now you have the new top mesh. About the studio. So here are the swatches, which is the colors that show when you want to change a swatch in Create a Sim, and I will worry about this later. Here is a thumbnail that will show when you're browsing the clothes in Create a Sim, and here is a texture. There is nothing here, even though the model has texture, because this is the default skin, and you won't use the skin here, only the texture of the clothes. Here is the meshes tab, and here is where you export and import the meshes from and to Blender. And this is really important, the level of detail. This is the highest setting, or when you're zoomed in on the sim, and you usually have 4 levels of details. We will work with the 0. Then it's lower, even lower, and this is when you're really zoomed out of the sim. And the mistake I made in the beginning is that I only imported mesh to this level of detail, so when I or someone else was using my CC, when they zoomed out of the sim, it didn't show the mesh, only this mesh. You have to have your mesh in all levels of details. And here's categories, outfit type, age, everything. And when you're using nude mesh, don't forget to tick the fashion choice. I use feminine. And now we can export the mesh. If you have Blender 2.70 installed, you can import the mesh. And if you don't have it installed, it will show a window and you can download it. So I will save it as nude top, and we can export. It will take a while, depending on your computer. And when it exports, you can open Blender. You can use 2.70. I use the newer version because I'm more used to it. And okay, here we are going to edit our mesh. And what I like to do is press, I will show you cast keys, display. And here in the corner you can see what I'm doing. So I press A to select all, delete, because we don't need lights, camera, anything, we just need our mesh. And here, if you don't have the XPS installed, you can click File, User Preferences, here Add-ons, and here you have add-ons. And if you download the XPS, you can install add-on from File, go to Downloads or wherever, and you will have the zip file. You just click on the zip file, then you click Install add-on from File. I already had it, and then it will show you. If I search XPS, it will show you like this. You just tick it that you're using it, save user settings, and that's all. Then you should have this tab. So click this tab, import model, go to your model. Here I already have LE, and you should have XPS. Just double click or click import XPS model, and sometimes it looks like this. You can notice that the mesh has weird colors. Here you have a tab, and here is a display method. Now it's on solid. Switch to texture, and you have the texture. Also, if you're familiar with Blender, you might have cycles render, which doesn't support the Sims 4 Studio doesn't support cycles, so just use the internal render. You can notice this weird lines here. That's our armature, which is controlling of the model. See? This is how you move. And every object has this mode. For example, if you have the mesh, you have object mode, edit mode, where you edit the vertices, sculpt mode, which is used to just sculpt, vertex paint, weight paint, texture paint. I will explain these later. So, what we need to do is separate the part of the mesh that we are going to use from the other parts of the meshes we don't use. So we will use this top, and some meshes already have it nicely separated. So I'm just going to right click on other parts and delete them. We need the head. Also here you can click on this eye and hide the armature, which helps. Delete everything you won't use. The backpack I will do as separate accessory. And here you have the shirt. If you have the mesh together, for example, if I show you here, and you can separate it, click on this triangle, click and drag, and you have a split window. Here, in a 3D viewport, you click on UV image editor, then you click edit mode, and here you have the textures. I really can't show you right now because it's really separated, but you click here to keep UV and edit mode mesh selection in synchronization, which means whatever you select here will select here and vice versa. So, so here we have the texture, and because I have two maps on the same place, I can't really see, but basically you go to the part of the mesh you don't want, seeing it as a texture. Just select the part, I'm just randomly selecting, then you go here, click delete vertices, and you will delete the part of the mesh. It's easier than just choosing here because it would take a lot of time and you could miss something. Also, what can happen is that your texture is up here. You can either just figure out from the texture which part of it is and check it in the 3D viewport, or you can just select it with A, place it over the texture, and there you go. So, we'll go back because my meshes were separated, deleted trousers. And also I would recommend to start with easy mesh, which is just a shirt or a tank top, which is easier. Okay, now we can show the armature, and our mesh is really ready to import to our new mesh. So click A, Control C, copy selected objects to buffer. I usually save this file, edited XPS, if I need to go back, so I don't have to separate it all over again. Now file, open, go to your Sims projects and open your new tutorial. Here you can see we have a sim mesh and the legs. This is the mesh that is our top. We won't affect the bottoms, feet, head, teeth. You don't have the top. You can hide it here if you click on the rig and hide these parts, but I like to have them open so I can see better. You can hide this transform. You don't need it. Control V, and we have our LE mesh here. You can notice that it has a different scale, so you can click on the armature, click S, and scale it so it fits our mesh. You can always hide the armature to see how well. Don't worry about the clipping now. We just need to have the mesh in the same scale. I think this is good. We will edit this later. So click the armature, and now we will going to pose the mesh so it fits the hands. Object mode, pose mode, and then you click on a bone that controls the part of the body. You can just click G to just randomly move it to see that it's controlling the part of the mesh you want. But I click R as rotate. Wait, keys, display. So I right click to select the bone, click R, and now you can click a letter on your keyboard, choosing on which axis this will rotate. I think Y is this. Okay, just move it like this and it fits. Now I click here, R, Z, R, Y, and just play with it, and the more it fits the mesh, the less work we will have later. So I suggest you really play with this until it fits as much as it should. We can move this down a bit. Okay. Let's check it, and perfect. Now on the second arm, I think you can make it so it's symmetrical, so when you pose this part, you can pose this part. I confess I don't really know, so I pose it like this. When you scroll your mouse wheel, you can zoom out and in, and if you click the mouse wheel, you can move around the mesh in the 3D space. I forgot to mention it, so let's adjust the mesh. Also, it's handy if you choose a mesh that has an armature, which most of the meshes already have. So, let's look how we did. And I think we are fine. So, what we will do about the clipping. Click hide the armature because it would just distract you. Right click on the mesh so it has the yellow outline and go to edit mode. Well, I forgot. If you go to edit mode, it will go to the previous position and we don't want that. So click on the armature, right click, go to object mode, yeah. Right click on the armature, hold shift and right click on the mesh so both are selected. Now go here next to the object mode, click object, apply rotation and scale and location. Now select only the mesh, go here, you have render options, object, materials, go to this range here and here you have modifiers. Apply the armature modifier when you're sure that you won't need to adjust the mesh by posing anymore because this is permanent. We will delete the armature later. So apply. Now you can right click only the armature and delete it. And now it stays in its place. Because if you wouldn't do this when you delete the armature, it will just go back to the position that it was before the posing. So now we have the mesh and we will edit it. So edit mode, you can see that now it fits. And you don't need UV right now. So as a beginner, I didn't know about proportional editing at all. So now when you right click a vertex here, if you move it, it just moves the vertex and you can see that it's not smooth. So for example, if I try to fix the boob, it would look terrible. See? Click O and you can see that this magic circle appeared, which is proportional editing. Here you have modes. You can have random, constant, linear. I usually use smooth, but for rounded things like boobs, I use sphere. Wait, I need to... Okay. Now, you can actually use the texture and you can also click that it's synchronized. For example, if you can't here reach any vertex, you just click on a vertex that is visible and you can figure out here which vertex would be the boob. For example, if you click OK, now we have it. Now you can press G and the axis, wait, G, axis, and it will move. You can see that it's moving all our mesh, we don't want that. So press G and scroll your mouse wheel down, well up, and you can see this circle. This is a circle that defines which part of the mesh will be affected by this. So for the boobs I like to go smaller, and now I usually use the arrows, it's easier. So I just click on the arrow and drag it, and now you can see it's moving smoothly. And I can show you what it would look like if I use just a smooth. Well, here it doesn't have really much difference, but here you can see that this one looks smoother. So I will just use the sphere and edit it so the mesh doesn't go through anything. I know we will delete the parts of the mesh that are hidden by this, but I want this to you want this to fit your, I want your mesh to fit the nude mesh as much as possible, so it's right. Well, we can fix the back. Now we go to smooth, click here and drag. When you're dragging, you can also increase the circle, but I like to work with smaller portions so I don't affect a lot or too much. Alright. Now for the hands, it's more difficult because, well, where we are? Here? Okay, we're here. Now I will usually go up and to the, to the side, and I switch the vertices and I check from all angles that it's fine. Now go to the next one, and I suggest you really take your time because then you won't be able to edit it so it's close to the EA mesh. So just take your time and don't forget to check the model from all angles, because sometimes you could miss a spot here and there. The sleeve looks okay, so the hand should be fine, the left one. Now to the right one, and here you can see that if you don't pose it properly, you will have more work to do here. So when I was beginner, it took me like 2 hours to convert one outfit. Now it takes half an hour, so okay, here's a spot. Go down a bit, and I will move this one more, this one too, so it's not too close. Okay, I think we're almost done. Also for the scaling, the shirt is too much above the mesh, so you can click here and drag it down. Then move this here, and also go around the mesh and look for some sharp spots. For example, here on the shoulder, you can click O and disable the proportional editing if you just need to fix one vertex. Okay. So I will go to object mode and check the mesh again if there are any mistakes. I think it looks just fine. Important. Save as EA mesh plus LE mesh. The best thing in the beginning is to save it after a big action you made, because if you mess something up, you can just go back to the previous save instead of working all again. So now what we need to do is go to Studio Mesh, which is our EA mesh, go to edit mode, and here we will delete all parts of the mesh that are hidden by the shirt, and this is for two reasons. One is that you make some space on the UV map, and second is that it has well, how do I say it? So it doesn't have too much vertices. Also, what is a UV map? I forgot to mention it. It's basically a 2D image with a texture on a 3D image. Let me show you. Well, here you can see that here you have the bra and stuff, and you can see that it's on the sim. And if you ever like made a cube from a paper, you remember that you had to, or if you use papercraft, it's basically just assembling the 2D image into a 3D image, into a 3D model. So go on the shirt, and so you can see what are you deleting. Also check that the UV and edit mode mesh is in synchronization. And here you have the two rectangles, and click on it so you can see the vertices through the mesh. Now we won't need this lower part at all, so click B as a border, select, and here you can see that this part is hidden under the shirt, so we can safely delete it. Then the hands, we can delete a bigger part, and usually on the arms and the neck and stuff leave some space, because if you delete it like this much, if you rotate the same on this mesh, it's not visible, but you would have just a big hole. So I just leave some space. Okay, here we have it. And now we will going to, okay, here's the clipping, so we can delete part of the shoulders too. And also in the UV map, if you click the scroll button on your mouse, you can move it around or zoom in, zoom out. Delete. And here we have some spot that we can, okay, that's better. Now is the time to check everything, because now we are going to combine these two meshes into one. So make sure that everything is okay. And now click on your LE shirt or your mesh, and next to the branch is a type of active data. Here you have vertex groups, which is a group of vertices that are controlled by the armature. Because we are going to combine these two, we just need these EA vertex groups. So we can, and we should delete these. Click on this arrow and delete all groups. Now we will need to combine these two UV maps, this one and the EA one. And here in the UV maps you have UV0 and UV1. I will show you what I mean. UV0 is a normal UV map that is that just shows the texture. UV1 is a map that you absolutely need to have on your mesh, because then you wouldn't be able to use the sliders, like scaling or increasing and decreasing the boob size, the arm, and etc. So you can notice that here we have UV1, and what we need to do is rename it, so when we combine the meshes, it combines the UV maps, because Sims 4 Studio uses one texture map. If we had two, then you wouldn't have to do this, but we need to. So also go to edit mode, and if your UV map is right on the texture, we need to move it. Don't worry about this texture right now, just move it out, because then it would overlap our EA mesh and we wouldn't be able to separate it. So now double click and rename this to UV_0. Don't worry about the texture, it's normal. And add another UV and name it UV_1. Now it's matching. What I like to do is delete this material because we won't need it. And now select both of these. You can click Shift, and now you can Control J to join, or you can just go to Edit and join. Okay. Now if we go to edit mode, you can see that we have both the top and the mesh, which is alright. Now click A here and use base texture. Now we will work on our textures. So the shirt has the texture it had before, and what usually people do is choose the top part, move it here, but what I like to do when I convert meshes from other games, you can see that here we have a spot, and this is where we will put the texture. Also about this, here you have your sim texture, which is the texture of the model of the sim that you have in game. For example, if you placed your texture here on the face, then it would cover the face. So we need to use a spot that the same model won't use. For example, the space that is here, or the space on the arms, because we deleted it. You also can't overlap these parts, because then it would show on this part of the body. I hope you get it. So now what we need to do, here on the base texture, you can also download it from Google. You can search Sims for texture, and this is the same one. You can save it from Blender, but this is easier. Save as, go to downloads, and now we will leave Blender for a bit. We will go to Photoshop or your editing software. And now you should find your model and check if your photo editing software supports these pictures. Okay, this is a DDS image, which means Photoshop can open it, and even with a plugin I wasn't able to. So the awesome site I like to use is the DS2PNG, the image.onlineconvert.com. Choose a file, go to your model, Ellie, and here you have different textures for different parts of Ellie's body. We will use this one, the shirt. You can figure out, we won't bother with these normal maps or other stuff. Just, it's usually named D as a default. I don't know what the D means. I know N is normal, S is specular map, but is just diffuse, that's the word. So don't change size or anything, just convert it. It doesn't take much time. And download it. Okay, we have PNG. First, we use this texture, and if you go to, can I switch this to English? Give me a second. I need settings. Okay, I probably can. Well, you go to File. No, the third one here in Photoshop. Just change the size of the image. I go here, and you can see that this is 1024 pixels to 2048. I like to make this bigger, so the width is 2048 and the height is 4096. I try to use a even bigger texture size, but the Sims 4 Studio won't let you import that. Now we will open another file, which is the file that we just converted, or just the file of the texture. Select all, and remember when I talked about this free space doesn't use any sim texture, so it's a perfect place for our texture. So paste it and move it here. We can also transform, and if you're using Photoshop, just click Shift so it remains in its, so it has its same dimension. Also look out for this, because if you overlap the hands, it will show on the hands of the sim. So make it as big as possible while not overlapping anything. Okay. And now another mistake. If you saved it like this, then if you used a custom texture of a sim, then it wouldn't show, because it would use this exact texture. So hide the background, so you have just this part, and save it in your projects. I use it as a texture, PNG, and save. Now we have the texture. What do we need to do now? Go to textures, and here you have diffuse map. We can delete it and add another texture. Open your texture, and now we can go here and open our texture. And you can see that this one has a different scale. That's because that was a square and this is a rectangle. So disable proportional editing, select only this part, S as a scale, y-axis, and 0.5, and we have the rectangle. Now we need to move this over our texture and check it here if it fits. You need to make it fit. This one is a nice rectangle, so it would be easy. And now I will check here, and you can see that we have our texture. Look out if the texture is in its right place. For example, if you moved it a little bit off, you would have these black parts, and that's not it. So maybe I can increase the size a bit. This is also an important part. Okay, that should be okay. So, save as, joint, for example, and UV. What we will need to do now, so we have our mesh together with the texture, everything's fine. Now, as I talked about the vertex paint is, go to solid because you wouldn't see it. Different parts of meshes in Sims 4 use different color of vertex paint. You can see that our mesh, can I disable the top here? Okay, so it doesn't clip, uses green, and our mesh is not green. So go here, and to have the green, the red will be 0 and the blue will be 0, so we have this green. Paint, set vertex colors, and you can see that it matches. If you had a slightly off color, if you set vertex colors, it would be bad. So make sure you have 0, 1, 0. Paint, set vertex colors, and we have it. Okay. Now, what we need to do, when I talked about the UV, the UV map, you can see that it doesn't match really, right? So, now what we will do is find a mesh here from a game that looks as similar as your mesh as possible. So move this here, look at this, create 3D mesh, delete the node, search this, and scroll through it. For example, you wouldn't use tank top or a jacket if you have a shirt with undershirt. You can also search here for shirt, so you have just shirts. And do we have any shirt like this? I'm not really sure if Sims 4 has some type of this shirt. Well, then we will have to use, and here you can use from a different packs. It won't affect our original package because we need to use nude top. It's base game compatible. Okay, so I will have to use long sleeved shirt. Like this, for example. It doesn't matter which swatch uses. Now you should name this reference or something like this. Export the mesh, don't worry about the texture, just the mesh. Ref. So now we have our mesh exported, our reference mesh, and we can hide the UV because we won't use it anymore. So click on this and drag it here. You can see an arrow, but move it to the other side so we delete it. Okay, we need just the viewport and this part. We also don't need this part, so we can hide it. Now File, Append, and click on the reference, Object, and as for Studio Mesh, some meshes have 2 or more parts, and so open all of them. You can see the circle, we don't need this. We also need the second rake, delete it. And if you have more meshes, just shift click all of them and join them into one. So we can see our mesh here. Now, what we need to do is, so you can check it, switch to UV1, and we need this mesh, we don't need it visible. Now, go to this range here, into the modifier. Add data transfer modifier, and you need newer version of this data. You can see that it's red. That means we haven't chosen our search source object. Choose the S4 Studio that we imported, face and corner data, UVs, UV1, and UV1. And here you can see that it kind of fits. See? This is how it should look. Apply, and now we have the UV1. Go to UV0. Now we need to show our mesh in the EA mesh, and our mesh we go to weight paint. Weight paint means that you assign weights to the vertex groups, which will move with the mesh. Which part of the mesh will move with the group on the rig. So, click S4 Studio Mesh, Shift, and R Mesh. You need to do this in this order, no other way around. So first EA Mesh, then R Mesh. So both are selected. Now, click here, write down Transfer Weights. Open Transfer Mesh Data, Source Layer. By name, and all layers. Replace. Transfer again, and now we can check. Tie twist. We can hide this mesh for now, so we can check. We can pinky. Okay, pinky, finger, okay. Just scroll up. The fingers will be okay. Head, neck, and this is EA mesh. We need to make sure that our mesh has the weights too. So go to forearm twist, for example, and you can see that our mesh has this weight too. Breast, pelvis, upper arm, another breast, shoulder, elbow. Everything seems okay. Fine. And now, very important step in this version of Blender. You need to clean your mesh and all groups. This is very important, otherwise your mesh won't work. It will just be out of the place and it won't work. So make sure you cleaned it. You can go back to object mode and we can delete EA mesh. Now our mesh is almost complete. So save as complete, for example. And now we need CAS, create a sim tools. You can close this version of Blender, and I like to switch to 2.70 because it already has this add-on. Now, File, Open our newest blend mesh. Go to the third scene, and you can here see S4 Studio CAS tools. Don't mess with the type, and cut will be 4 zeros. If you don't do this, it won't show in the Sims 4 Studio. Okay, we can save. And we will go to our package that we used. First, I will import our texture. And it doesn't show, that's okay. Now we will import our mesh and see if we did this right. It can take a while, it's okay. Depends on your computer really. And here you can see it. We have our mesh, which is alright, the texture is fine. Here we can choose a swatch. I usually choose 3 main colors. Just so it's okay. Now we can add, for example, this yellow orange color. Okay. For the thumbnail, you can choose a thumbnail. If you don't, it will just show it like this, just the basic mesh. Some people use a picture, so we can go to Google, Ellie Last of Us. We can choose a picture where she has our mesh, which exactly isn't really here. Well, this is really optional, but you will find your CC and others will find your CC easier. So, can wallpaper maybe? We can use this one. This one is pretty. Oh, we can just save our picture and we can import it. I think it will scale it. Okay, that's fine. This is how it will show in the catalog. Save. Also make sure your category is right. You can choose an age, fashion choice feminine. I won't allow it for random, or maybe I can. Save it. And we can go in game and see how we did. So, origin. This is really a long process, especially when you're a beginner, but when you convert more stuff, it will be fine. Let's play Sims 4. Oh, I forgot. I didn't move the mesh to my folder. We have the Sims 4. Stop that process. Now you go to your projects, choose the top and paste it here into your mods folder. Now we can play and see how we did. Also, I haven't figured out how to do full body outfits properly, because it will always do some weird stuff and I don't really know what's going on. So I usually do just the top or the bottoms. The bottoms have exactly the same process, except you can put the texture, for example, where are the pants. And also remember that if another CC that you have uses the same spot on the texture map, it will override it. And why aren't we answering? Okay. It does this sometimes. It doesn't mean our mesh is wrong. It's just me. I maybe clicked and I don't know. here I have lots of CC I made. Almost everything Life is Strange related. Okay, let's mute Sims 4 so it doesn't distract us. You can close this, but well, I clicked again. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. So, alright. Can also close Photoshop. Don't need it anymore. We're just checking in that our mesh is alright. Okay, new game. We have a moment. And now tops. Content, custom content, and here we have it. And it's okay. You can just... You can see that the sliders work. Everything works, really. So we've done it. We have our mesh. You can also choose some bottoms to go with our mesh. Max bottoms. These bottoms. I can convert bottoms next. You can make her look like Ellie if you want. Just delete the makeup. Put on some ponytail that we have here, maybe this Ayano Aishim ponytail. This is not Ellie at all, but okay, we can see the sliders work. Everything works. So if you've done it like me, you should have your mesh and you should be okay. Also, we can make it... It doesn't hurt to check it in game. So just do this. But if it shows right in Create a Sim in 99%, it should work in game good as well. And also, I forgot on one thing that I talked about, and this is why I need to show you. Go some lot. I forgot to import to the lower level of details, so I will show you how it looks. See, here we have the top zoomed in, everything's fine, but if you zoom out, see, she's naked. So to fix this, you go to your Sims 4 Studio. Come on, PC, please. And what you probably should do is make the mesh lower quality, otherwise it will take more meshes and we don't have the level of details. I'll forget about this a lot, so you should make this mesh lower quality. I can try. I think there's a modifier for that, which is decimate, unsubdivide. Well, it doesn't really do anything. If I go to object mode, maybe. how many vertices we have. Well, it doesn't work. But these meshes aren't too big, so I always upload the same version of mesh. Some people might kill me for this, but I don't see a problem with it. When you want to take pictures and stuff. This takes a while. Okay, another one. This also applies when you convert accessory or any object, anything really. Just remember the level of detail. And don't forget to save it. While we do this, I will just recapitulate all of this. So, what we need to do first. This will be quick. Sorry. You need to edit your XPS, so you have only this part of the mesh and the armature. Then you just combine it like this. Then you delete these parts, etc. Then you join the objects and the UV maps. So you need to have UV1 and UV0. Then you will need to do the vertex paint, so it's green. Then weight paint, data transfer UVs, right? And don't forget to clean the mesh and all groups, and you should be fine. So if you follow this tutorial, you should be okay and your mesh should be working. If it still doesn't work, then go over the steps that I went through, and if it still doesn't work, just go to my Tumblr or on my YouTube channel and comment, and I can look at your blend file and go through it and see what's wrong and help you. So thank you for watching. I know this has been long, but I'm glad you stayed, and see you next. Also, tell me what you would like to see next, if I should do more CC and convert it. So bye.